The galaxy was trembling. Stars blinked like distant candles as fleets of alien ships raced across the void, fleeing from a threat no one had thought possible. The Krelthar, a warlike species, moved like a tidal wave of destruction. Planet after planet fell to their engines of death, their cities burning, their skies filled with fire. Whole civilizations vanished before anyone could understand what had happened. The survivors sent messages of despair, hoping someone, anyone, would come to their aid. In the grand council chambers of the Galactic Alliance, leaders of dozens of species gathered. Their faces, covered with the marks of their worlds, were pale with worry. For days they debated, arguing over strategy, resources, and alliances, but no plan seemed enough. The Krelthar were too fast, too cruel, and too intelligent. Finally, a trembling voice rose from the assembly. "We need someone else," it said. "Someone unexpected, someone—" Earth. On Earth, life went on mostly unaware. Cities hummed with human activity. Oceans lapped gently on shores and the wind danced through forests. But in the hidden corners of the world, some creatures stirred. Deep in the Siberian tundra, the Ursivores, massive bear-like beasts that had been kept in isolation for decades, lifted their heads. Their eyes glowed, sensing a disturbance far beyond the mountains and ice. Across the Pacific, in the deep oceans, massive shapes shifted in the depths. The leviathans, serpentine giants of the sea, felt a pulse, an urgent call that stirred something ancient inside them. In deserts and volcanoes, dragons, wings folded, bodies coiled, breathed slowly, their instincts whispering that the universe itself was in peril. Commander Hale stood in the command room of Earth's orbital defense station, staring at the holographic message from the Galactic Alliance. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched at the edges of the console. The aliens were desperate. Their voices carried urgency and fear. They spoke of planets burning, of millions already lost, and of a darkness that no ordinary army could stop. And then came the plea, simple, direct, and almost unbelievable. "Earth, we need your monsters." Hale's mind raced. Monsters. Creatures humans had spent centuries fearing, hiding, and sometimes studying in secret. Beasts so powerful that entire governments had treated them as threats rather than allies. Now those same creatures were being asked to save the galaxy. The thought should have terrified him, but it did not. Instead, a strange warmth grew in his chest, a spark of hope. Maybe humanity had something to offer that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. He turned to the Council of Earth's leaders, a mix of generals, scientists, and government officials. "They are asking for our help," he said. "Not just with weapons, not with ships, but with what we have kept secret. With our monsters. They want us to fight alongside them." The room was silent. Eyes widened, breaths held. For centuries, humans had learned to live in fear of their own creations and nature's fiercest beings. Now those same beings were being called heroes. Dr. Lin, a biologist who had studied the Leviathans for decades, finally spoke. Her voice trembled with emotion. "If we fail, entire worlds will die. And if we succeed, maybe the galaxy will finally understand that Earth's monsters are not just beasts. They are guardians." Hale nodded. "We don't have time to debate. They are already coming. The Krelthar won't wait for us to decide. We either act or watch the galaxy burn." Across the world, the awakening began. In the forests, the Ursivores roared, the sound so deep it shook the earth beneath them. Birds and animals scattered in fear, sensing the power of these ancient guardians. In the oceans, the Leviathans breached the surface, their massive forms casting shadows that blotted out the sun. Waves crashed around them as if the oceans themselves were rising in defiance. Dragons stretched their wings across the sky, the heat of their bodies causing storms to stir and volcanoes to hiss. Humanity watched in awe, fear, and disbelief. These creatures were terrifying, but now they were allies. Hale walked among the scientists and soldiers, feeling a mixture of pride and anxiety. He could see it in their eyes, the same fear he felt tempered with determination. "They are listening to us," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "They know the universe is in danger, and they know we are worth saving." The Galactic Alliance's message repeated again, this time clearer and more urgent. "They are coming. We cannot survive alone. Earth, if you join us, your monsters will be our strongest hope. Please, respond." Hale's hand hovered over the console, his mind weighing the impossible decision. And then, with a deep breath, he pressed the response button. A single word echoed through the galaxy. "We will fight." Across Earth, from the oceans to the mountains, from the deserts to the forests, a silent understanding passed among the monsters. Humans had called, and Earth's fiercest beings had heard. They would rise. They would fight. And in the quiet before the storm, a spark of hope flared brighter than any star. The galaxy had asked for help, and Earth was ready to answer. The call had gone out. The galaxy had begged for help, and Earth had answered. But answering was only the first step. Now came the stirring, the awakening of the monsters humanity had hidden, studied, and feared for centuries. In the frozen wilderness of Siberia, snow fell silently over forests that had never known peace. Beneath the thick ice, the Ursivores, massive bear-like creatures, stirred. Their claws scraped the frozen ground, leaving deep furrows in the ice. Their eyes, golden and piercing, opened wide as if sensing the pull of a universe in danger. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum across the tundra. The Ursivores had been kept in isolation for their own safety and humanity's. Yet now instinct and memory called them to war. With a roar that split the cold air, they charged toward the southern forests, moving faster than any man had thought possible for beasts of their size. Far across the oceans, the Leviathans responded. From the depths of the Pacific, colossal shapes twisted through the water, their scales glittering like living armor. Humans had known of their existence only through scattered sonar readings and whispered legends of monstrous sea serpents. Now the creatures rose, massive fins slicing through the waves as their eyes glowed with ancient intelligence. They did not speak, yet their intent was clear. They had heard humanity's call. From beneath the waves they would answer, and the Krelthar would learn that the oceans of Earth were no longer safe. Even the dragons, hidden in the deserts and volcanic mountains of the world, felt the pull. Wings unfolded slowly, stretching across canyons and cliffs. Smoke curled from their nostrils, tasting the heat of their own bodies as if testing their strength. For centuries, humans had called them myths, had drawn them in stories and cautioned children about them. But now dragons knew the truth. They were real and they were needed. Fire coiled in their throats, ready to unleash upon any enemy who dared approach Earth or her allies. Commander Hale watched from the orbital station as the world below transformed. He saw scientists and military coordinators racing to prepare. Special containment units opened, and humans guided the monsters toward the places where they could be most effective. The Ursivores were sent to the mountains where Krelthar landing zones might emerge. The Leviathans were guided to strategic oceans and ports where alien warships could not hide. Dragons took to the skies, ready to dominate the atmosphere with speed, fire, and fury. Yet there was fear. Fear in the hearts of humans and even in the monsters themselves. They were not soldiers by training. They were creatures of instinct, of wild strength and ancient cunning. Humanity had no way to truly control them, only to guide them, to call upon their loyalty and trust. Hale felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "We are asking the impossible," he said to his team, "but the galaxy is depending on it. And our monsters, they will not fail us." The first signs of unity appeared in small, quiet ways. An Ursivore, sensing a human's courage and desperation, let them climb onto its back. A Leviathan nudged a stranded ship to safety before moving toward the horizon. A dragon hovered over a town, letting a child wave at it without harm. Trust was building, fragile but strong, and it would be the foundation of what was to come. Meanwhile, communications from the Galactic Alliance arrived with increasing urgency. Reports of Krelthar attacks came faster than anyone could keep up with. Entire colonies had been burned, fleets destroyed, and millions of lives lost. And yet the monsters moved with precision and purpose. They were not just animals, they were partners in war, creatures who understood instinctively that humans and monsters together could be something no enemy could anticipate. Hale's voice echoed across the command center. "Prepare for deployment. The first wave of monsters will leave in 1 hour. Every planet we save counts. Every life we protect matters. And the galaxy is watching us. Do not let it see failure." From that moment, Earth changed forever. Humans who had once feared the beasts now guided them into battle. Soldiers rode dragons across the skies, their swords and rifles synchronized with the creatures' natural attacks. Leviathans leapt from oceans, tearing through enemy vessels, while Ursivores roared and charged with terrifying strength, their claws and teeth leaving marks of legend in the battlefield. The world held its breath. People watched from cities and forests, from mountains and plains, knowing that Earth's monsters were no longer just creatures of myth. They were warriors. They were protectors. They were the voice of humanity in a galaxy that had almost forgotten Earth existed. And somewhere, deep in the hearts of every monster, a silent bond was forming. They were not human, yet they understood the humans' courage and their desperate plea. They were not soldiers, yet they would fight. They were not allies, yet they were united by something greater than instinct or survival. They were Earth's monsters, and now they were the galaxy's last hope. As the first wave of beasts prepared to leave the planet, Hale stood watching. He whispered under his breath, barely audible, "Go, fight for us. Fight for everyone who cannot fight. Show them the heart of Earth." The monsters stirred, the air vibrating with their power, and the world waited. The galaxy had called. Earth had answered. And now its monsters were ready. The blackness of space was suddenly alive with light. The Krelthar fleet had arrived, massive warships blotting out stars, their hulls bristling with weapons that could tear planets apart. They had expected an easy conquest. Entire worlds had fallen before them, civilizations reduced to ashes. But Earth had something the galaxy had not counted on: monsters. Commander Hale watched from the orbital station as dragons ascended into the upper atmosphere. Their wings glinted against the sun, and smoke curled from their nostrils like warning banners. Beneath them, the oceans churned as leviathans leapt from the depths, tails smashing into waves and creating towering walls of spray. On the mountains and plains, Ursavares roared, their voices deep enough to shake the ground. Humans and monsters were moving as one, ready to face the impossible. The first encounter was sudden. A Krelthar cruiser dropped from orbit, aiming to land and establish a forward base. It had no idea of the monsters waiting below. As it descended, a dragon shot through the clouds, its body blazing with fire that could melt steel. The cruiser's shields flared, but it was not enough. Plasma and molten metal rained down as the dragon circled, its claws tearing into the alien hull. Below, Ursavores charged the landing zone. Their massive paws tore through armored infantry, and their jaws snapped like steel traps. Krelthar soldiers screamed in confusion, unable to comprehend creatures of such size and ferocity moving with precision. Humans ran alongside them, guiding the beasts and targeting weak points in the enemy's formation. From the oceans, leviathans surged, leaping onto enemy vessels with crushing force. Ships were shattered like glass under their weight, and the water boiled around them. They had no fear of death. They were fighting for something greater than survival. They were fighting for the humans who had called them, and for the galaxy that needed them. The Krelthar retaliated with ferocity. Energy beams streaked through the sky, cutting through dragons' wings and striking the oceans where leviathans rose. Explosions lit up the battlefield, but the monsters did not falter. Each creature moved instinctively, guided by a bond with humanity. They were strong, terrifying, and relentless. Hale's voice echoed through comms. "Remember, they are counting on us. Keep them alive, fight smart, and never forget why we are here." The dragons dove again, diving through enemy fire, their claws rending the cruiser's armor. Some of the younger dragons screamed as they took hits, but veteran dragons shielded them, swooping and breathing fire to protect their allies. The Krelthar had never faced a threat like this, creatures that were not merely soldiers but living forces of nature. Leviathans smashed through the enemy's landing craft, tossing soldiers into the sea. They had an intelligence, a cunning that surprised even the most seasoned human commanders. It was as if they knew exactly where to strike to cause the most damage. The Krelthar fleet faltered, unsure how to respond to a species that had no fear and no weakness they could exploit. The ground battle raged simultaneously. Ursavores tore through enemy bunkers, their massive forms nearly unstoppable. Yet even they felt the cost. Some fell to energy weapons, their roars echoing across the battlefield as humans rushed to distract the enemy long enough for them to retreat. Every victory came with a price, every step forward marked by sacrifice, and yet, the humans did not despair. Soldiers cheered dragons as they returned to the sky. Scientists guided leviathans toward the remaining enemy vessels. Engineers reinforced the Ursavores' paths through enemy territory. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos, a symphony of humans and monsters working together. As the first day of battle ended, the Krelthar retreated from the initial engagement, shocked and wounded. They had expected a simple victory, yet Earth had defied all expectation. The galaxy watched, stunned, as humans and monsters stood victorious against a fleet that had conquered entire sectors. Hale looked out at the battlefield from orbit. Smoke and fire clouded the horizon, but there was something else too: pride. He saw dragons circling high above, leviathans returning to the depths with the remains of enemy ships, and ursivores roaring across the plains. Humanity had shown its courage, but more than that, it had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten: that Earth's monsters were not just weapons, they were heroes. The victory was only the beginning. Hale knew the Krelthar would return, stronger and more ruthless, but for now Earth had made a statement. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again, and the monsters, fierce and untamed, had found their place in a war that was far bigger than any one planet. As night fell, Hale whispered to himself, "They asked for help, and we answered. But this is only the beginning. The universe hasn't seen anything yet." The smoke of battle hung heavy in the skies above Earth's oceans and mountains. The first contact with the Krelthar had ended in victory, but it was a victory carved with pain. The monsters that had fought so fiercely now moved slowly, injured and weary. Dragons nursed torn wings and burned scales. Leviathans floated in the ocean, heavy with exhaustion and injuries. Ursivores lay on snow-covered plains, breathing hard, their fur matted with blood. Commander Hale walked among them, a mixture of pride and sorrow in his eyes. He had watched humans and monsters fight as one, and he had seen what no human soldier had ever imagined: beasts that were feared and misunderstood, acting with intelligence, loyalty, and courage beyond measure. But the cost was clear. Some creatures did not rise again, their bodies still on the battlefield, their roars now silent. "We can't let this be in vain," Hale said quietly to the remaining team, his voice shaking slightly. "Every creature that fought today gave everything, and the galaxy is watching. They need to see what Earth is made of." Humans moved quickly, tending to the injured, patching up creatures as best as they could. Engineers reinforced dragon wings with temporary supports. Scientists monitored Leviathan's vital signs, carefully feeding them and ensuring they could swim again. Soldiers stayed by the ursivores, applying healing salves and comforting the beasts with steady hands. For the first time, humans understood the true weight of fighting alongside monsters. The bond was real, fragile, and precious. Across the battlefield, the Krelthar regrouped. They were not defeated, only wounded, and their eyes burned with hatred. Entire fleets had been destroyed by Earth's monsters, and they could not comprehend it. "These are not weapons," one Krelthar commander growled to another. "They are living gods." "And the humans guide them. We underestimated them." The word spread across their ranks, sowing fear and doubt. The galaxy's civilizations who had sent aid watched and whispered among themselves. Earth, long dismissed as a primitive world, had unleashed creatures that could rival fleets and dominate entire battlefields. Humanity was no longer a backwater planet. They were a power to be respected, feared even. But on Earth, the mood was somber. Humans counted the costs. Soldiers mourned the monsters they had lost, tears mixing with the mud and blood of the battlefield. And yet, even in grief, there was determination. Every creature that had fallen had done so to protect life, to answer a call that no one else could. The humans made silent vows. They would honor these sacrifices, and they would not let the galaxy forget. Hale stood atop a ridge overlooking the ocean, where leviathans rested, and the smoke of the scorched plains rose like ghostly pillars. He thought of the dragons, circling the horizon despite injuries, and the ursivores slowly returning to the forests. He whispered, "They fought for us, and now we fight for them." In the days that followed, Earth's people worked tirelessly. Monstrous allies were healed, trained, and prepared for the next engagement. The dragons' wings were patched, the leviathans fed and conditioned, the ursivores guided to safer hunting grounds to regain strength. Humans understood something new. This war was not just about survival, but about trust. The monsters had trusted them, and they could not betray that trust. The Krelthar, meanwhile, began to change tactics. They had learned the hard way that brute force could not overcome the bond between humans and monsters. Now they struck with cunning, sending stealth ships and ambush teams hoping to wear down Earth's defenders. Every day became a test, and every victory was paid for with sweat, blood, and tears. And yet, despite the pain and loss, hope remained. Humans had seen what monsters could do when inspired. and guided. They had witnessed dragons cutting through alien fleets, leviathans crushing ships beneath the waves, ursivores shattering armored columns. They had seen courage that transcended species, fearlessness that could not be measured, and that courage, they knew, was contagious. Hale gathered his team one evening, the sun setting behind the mountains. "We have lost much," he said softly, "but we have shown the galaxy what we can do." The monsters fought, and they fought for more than survival. They fought for life, for hope, and for all of us. That is something no enemy can take away. A young soldier, eyes wide with tears, nodded. "They trusted us, and I'll never forget it." The monsters themselves seemed to understand. The dragons roared into the night sky, a sound that was both mournful and proud. Leviathans swam beneath the waves, their movements slow but purposeful. Ursivores padded across the forests, their golden eyes reflecting the fires of distant battles. They had endured, they had fought, and they had lived. And humanity had learned something too. Fear of the unknown, of creatures far larger and more powerful than themselves, was no longer part of their hearts. They had seen courage and loyalty where they least expected it. They had seen the strength of monsters, and they had seen what it meant to fight for something greater than themselves. The first battle was over, but the war had only begun. The Krelthar would return, stronger and more ruthless than ever. Yet Earth was ready. Humans and monsters alike had tasted victory and loss, and both had been forged into a new kind of strength. The galaxy would learn soon enough that Earth's defenders were not just dangerous, they were unstoppable. Hale looked at the horizon, where dragons flew in the last rays of sunlight, and leviathans glided beneath the ocean surface. "We pay the cost," he whispered, "but we do not falter. And the galaxy will remember. Earth fights with monsters, and we will not lose." Earth was quiet, but not for long. The first battle had shown the galaxy that humans and their monsters could stand against the Krelthar. Yet the victory had come at a price. The monsters were tired, the humans were exhausted, and the scars of war stretched across oceans, mountains, and forests. Commander Hale walked among his teams, the weight of responsibility pressing on him like gravity. Every decision mattered. Every action could mean survival or annihilation. "We cannot falter now," Hale said firmly to the council. "The Krelthar will come again, stronger, smarter. We must be ready. Every human, every monster, every ship. We must all act as one." Across the planet, preparations began. Humans worked tirelessly, coordinating with dragons, leviathans, and ursivores. Dragons practiced aerial formations, learning to synchronize fire and movement to cover human forces. Leviathans trained to strike at enemy ships from the oceans, mastering speed and precision. Ursivores learned new tactics for land combat, using their size and strength in ways even seasoned soldiers could not predict. Humans, too, adapted. Soldiers studied monster behavior, learning how to anticipate attacks and coordinate movements. Engineers designed support equipment to enhance the monster's natural abilities. Scientists monitored every heartbeat, scale, and wing beat, ensuring each creature could endure the coming battles. And above all, humans forged a bond of trust. They understood that these were not machines or weapons. They were living beings, willing to fight for Earth and the galaxy because they believed in the humans who had called them. The Galactic Alliance watched with growing awe. Messages of admiration flooded in. Ships from distant star systems joined the effort, inspired by Earth's courage. Yet, even with allies arriving, Hale knew the battles ahead would test everyone's limits. The Krelthar were cunning, and their hatred had only grown since the first clash. They would not underestimate Earth again, and they would come prepared to destroy everything in their path. In the skies, dragons soared higher and faster than ever before. Their wings sliced through clouds like blades, their roars carrying across continents. Humans rode on their backs, guiding attacks with rifles, energy weapons, and sheer willpower. The bond between rider and dragon was electric, born of respect, trust, and the understanding that failure was not an option. Beneath the waves, leviathans practiced coordinated strikes. Massive tentacles lashed out, toppling enemy vessels in drills that simulated real battle. Scientists and sailors observed, recording every movement, preparing for the day they would face fleets of the Krelthar once more. On land, ursivores trained alongside human units, practicing maneuvers through forests, mountains, and urban areas. Soldiers learned to anticipate the creature's instincts, to guide their immense strength without restraining it. Every roar, every leap, every swipe was calculated, yet still wild, untamed and terrifying to any enemy who dared approach. Hale moved among them, watching the monsters, the humans, and the bond growing stronger by the hour. His heart swelled with pride and fear. "They are ready," he said softly to himself, "and so are we. The Krelthar will not know what hit them." The humans themselves changed in this time of preparation. Ordinary citizens contributed, providing resources, intelligence, and support. Families watched as dragons flew overhead, knowing their children could grow up in a world where courage and monsters walked side by side. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers worked in unison, each understanding that the coming war was not just about survival, it was about proving humanity's worth to a galaxy that had long underestimated them. The first real test came in small skirmishes along Earth's orbit. Scouts reported Krelthar ships approaching isolated colonies. Without hesitation, dragons and leviathans struck in perfect coordination, cutting through the enemy before they could land. Ursavries secured strategic positions, preventing boarding teams from breaking through. Humans directed, fought, and adapted, showing the galaxy that Earth's defenders were more than a surprise. They were unstoppable. As the sun set on the 5th day of preparations, Hale stood on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. The horizon glimmered with the forms of dragons, the rising shapes of leviathans, and the silhouettes of ursavories returning to their territories after drills. The humans below moved in patterns that mirrored the monsters' movements, a silent testament to the trust and skill forged in a week of relentless preparation. Hale's eyes softened as he whispered, "We have learned to fight together. We have learned to trust, to lead, to follow, and when the Krelthar come, they will learn that Earth is not a world to conquer. It is a force, alive, wild, and united." The monsters stirred at his words. Dragons flexed their wings, fire burning softly in their throats. Leviathan's eyes glowed deep beneath the waves. Ursavora's golden gaze swept across the forests and plains. They were ready. Earth had risen from fear, doubt, and secrecy. Humans had shown courage. Monsters had answered the call, and together they had become more than a planet. They had become a beacon of hope. The galaxy waited. The Krelthar waited. And Earth, with its monsters and its people, was ready to show that courage, trust, and unity could defy even the most merciless enemy. The day the Krelthar flagship appeared, silence fell over Earth's forces. It was unlike any ship humanity had ever seen. A massive city-sized dreadnought, bristling with weapons, energy shields glowing ominously, and engines that could crush entire fleets in seconds. Even the Galactic Alliance forces, battle-hardened veterans of countless wars, paused in awe and fear. But Earth had its monsters, and humanity's courage burned brighter than any star. Commander Hale stood on the command deck, watching the dreadnought move through the void. Dragons flexed their wings, hovering in formation above the planet, fire coiling in their throats. Leviathans rose from the oceans, their massive forms cutting through the waves as if preparing to leap straight into space. Ursavories patrolled the mountain passes and forests, ready to strike wherever enemy forces tried to land. Humans and monsters alike were tense but ready. The bond they had forged over weeks of preparation now pulsed like electricity through every living being. Hale raised his hand. "Now," he whispered, and the battle began. Dragons surged through the atmosphere, diving at the dreadnought with precision. Fire erupted from their throats, striking shields and weapons arrays. They screamed through the sky, weaving around enemy laser fire, their movements a deadly dance of courage and instinct. Some were hit, but they fought on, protecting each other and human riders alike. Every strike tore away at the dreadnought's defenses, but the ship was massive and relentless. Beneath the waves, Leviathans launched themselves into orbit with calculated precision, striking at smaller Krelthar ships surrounding the flagship. Their bodies crashed against vessels, tearing them apart, sending shockwaves through space and water alike. Humans guided their movements with technology and instinct, calling out coordinates and targeting weak points, their voices steady even as their hearts raced. On land, Ursavors charged through enemy landing teams. Their claws ripped through armored suits, and their jaws crushed alien soldiers who dared approach human command posts. Soldiers fought alongside them, rifles and energy weapons synced with the monsters' attacks. The battlefield was chaos, but it was controlled chaos, a symphony of humans and monsters working in perfect harmony. The Krelthar flagship retaliated. Energy beams lanced through the sky, scorching mountains and seas alike. Smaller ships swarmed Earth's defenses, and the battlefield became a storm of fire, water, and steel. Yet the monsters did not falter. Dragons shielded humans from explosions. Leviathans smashed through swarms of enemy fighters. Ursivores held the ground unstoppable, roaring their defiance into the chaos. Hail coordinated the attack from orbit, giving commands and encouragement in equal measure. Dragons focus fire on the dorsal shields. Leviathans strike from beneath. Ursivores hold the mountain passes. Every order was a thread in a web of strategy that humans and monsters wove together. And slowly, the tide began to turn. The flagship shuddered as dragons tore at its energy conduits. Leviathan struck critical engines, and Ursivores tore through the boarding teams trying to take human command stations. The Krelthar had underestimated the bond between humans and monsters. Their cooperation, intelligence, and courage was something no weapon could easily destroy. Finally, Hale saw the opportunity. A weak point in the Dreadnought's core opened for just a moment. Dragons and Leviathans coordinated a strike like never before. Fire, claws, teeth, and sheer mass slammed into the core simultaneously. Humans charged inside with elite squads, planting explosives and hacking systems. The flagship groaned under the pressure, its shields flickering and dying. With a deafening roar, the Dreadnought's core exploded. A wave of fire and debris shot through space, scattering enemy ships. The Krelthar fleet, seeing their command destroyed, faltered and retreated in chaos. The battlefield fell silent, except for the triumphant cries of dragons and the deep bellows of Ursivores, and the slow, deliberate movements of Leviathans returning to the oceans. Hale watched, his chest tight with emotion. The cost had been high. Dragons wounded, Leviathans scarred, Ursivores injured. Humans had fought and bled alongside them, and yet against all odds they had won. The impossible had been made possible. The Krelthar, for the first time in history, had been defeated by Earth's defenders. Messages flooded in from across the galaxy. Allied species cheered, sending congratulations, awe, and thanks. Planets that had once been on the brink of annihilation were saved. And humanity? Humanity had proven something it had always known in its heart. Courage, determination, and unity could defeat even the deadliest of foes. Hale looked out over the battlefield. The oceans, the mountains, and the skies. Dragons circled in the distance, Leviathans glided beneath the waves. Ursivores roamed the forests. Humans walked among them, healing, praising, and thanking the creatures who had saved not just Earth but countless worlds. He whispered almost to himself, "We fought together. We bled together. And we won together. The galaxy will never forget Earth, or her monsters. The battle was won, but the war was not over. The Krelthar would return someday, stronger and more cunning. But Earth had learned its strength. Humans had learned the value of courage, the power of trust, and the might of monsters united with them." Hale turned to his team. "Remember this feeling. Remember that we are never alone. As long as we fight together, humans and monsters alike, nothing can stop us. The galaxy may challenge us, but it will never break us. Earth stands, and we stand as one." And for the first time in history, the galaxy saw humanity not as a small, insignificant world, but as a force of courage, intelligence, and indomitable spirit. A species that could rise, fight, and win with monsters by their side. The smoke cleared. The battlefield was quiet, but the echoes of war lingered in the air. The Krelthar fleet had been defeated, their flagship destroyed, and their soldiers scattered across space. Earth had survived. The galaxy had survived. And the monsters? The monsters of Earth, fierce and untamed, had proven themselves heroes. Commander Hale stood atop a cliff overlooking the ocean. The sun rose, glinting off dragon wings, the rippling scales of Leviathans and the fur of Ursivores patrolling the forests. Humanity had fought alongside them, not as masters, but as allies, equals in courage and purpose. Hale felt a deep swell of pride and exhaustion in equal measure. The battle had been won, but the cost had been high. Every monster that had fallen, every soldier injured, every city scarred, left a mark on the hearts of those who remained. Yet, amid the grief, hope shone brighter than any star. Across Earth, humans and monsters moved together in quiet harmony. Scientists tended to the injured Leviathans, feeding them and watching their vast forms recover. Soldiers brushed the scales and fur of dragons and Ursivores alike, whispering words of comfort and respect. Children peeked from behind rocks and trees, eyes wide with wonder. As creatures once thought to be myths now walked, flew, and swam freely, heroes of legend made real. Hale walked among the monsters, placing a hand on the massive head of an ursivore. Its golden eyes met his, full of understanding and loyalty. "We did it," he said softly, almost to himself. "We really did it." The beast nudged him gently, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had forged in battle. Dragons circled the skies, their fire now gentle, warming the clouds rather than burning them. They roared, a sound that was both mournful and proud, announcing to the world that they had survived, that they had fought, and that they would remain as guardians. Leviathans swam near the coast, their massive tails creating waves that whispered across the beaches. Ursivores roamed the forest and mountains, their movements a living reminder of Earth's strength and resilience. The Galactic Alliance sent envoys to Earth, their ships landing cautiously. Leaders of alien civilizations walked among humans and monsters, awe in their eyes. "We underestimated your world," one envoy said. "We underestimated your courage, your unity, your monsters." Hale nodded. "You saw only humans before. Now you have seen what happens when humans and monsters fight together. Never forget it." Across the galaxy, news spread. Planets that had once begged for aid now saw hope. Children who had feared the Krelthar learned of dragons flying through space, Leviathans striking with unstoppable force, and Ursivores holding the ground against impossible odds. Humanity had become a symbol, not of conquest but of courage, unity, and the power of the heart. Back on Earth, Hale addressed his teams. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians alike had gathered. "We were tested," he said. "We were pushed to our limits. We lost some and we saved many. But the galaxy now knows what we always knew. Earth may be small, but its heart is mighty. Our monsters, our courage, our unity, they are unstoppable, and they will never forget what we did here." A young soldier stepped forward, brushing ash from her uniform. "Commander, will the monsters stay with us?" she asked quietly. Hale smiled. "They will always be here. Not just as weapons, not just as guardians, but as partners. They fought for us and we fought with them. That bond cannot be broken." Hale looked out across the horizon, watching dragons glide through the clouds, Leviathans dip beneath the waves, and Ursivores patrol the forests. "The galaxy has learned something important," he said. "Humans are not weak. We do not surrender. And when called upon, Earth rises. We rise with monsters, with courage, and with hope. And together we will always fight for what is right." The first sun of the new day warmed the battered world. Cities began to rebuild. The ocean sparkled with life. The forests hummed with energy and growth. And somewhere in the sky, a dragon's cry rang out, proud and triumphant, a song of survival, of courage, and of a bond that would echo through the stars for centuries. Hale stood in silence, letting the wind carry his thoughts. "They asked the galaxy for help," he whispered. "And we answered. Our monsters answered. And together we showed the universe what Earth can do. The galaxy would remember this day. Every civilization, every fleet, every sentient being that had witnessed Earth's courage would carry the story forward. And Earth had proven that even the most misunderstood, the most feared, could become heroes. That even monsters, when guided by heart and purpose, could save worlds." And as Hale looked at dragons circling high above, Leviathans gliding deep beneath the waves, and Ursivores roaming free, he knew one truth. The legacy of Earth's monsters had only begun. The universe had seen them fight. The universe had seen humanity's heart, and together, they had become unstoppable. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth rose. Its monsters answered, and a small blue planet showed the stars that courage, unity, and heart could defy even the darkest of foes.